Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Rob from Heroes Avenue. Happy Friday. This week has been a roller coaster in terms of things to talk about, but there have been a few prevailing things that have really captured my attention this week. Two of them we're going to talk about in this video, and that has to do with the Joker controversy. And Darren talked about it in his previous video, and what I'm going to do in this video is kind of talk more about it, give you my thoughts, and also answer the question at the end of the video that he posed yesterday. Then the next thing I'm going to talk about is the Brandon Routh super... No, I'm not. I'm talking about SpiderMan. He's back in the MCU. And that's super big news. And I'm not trying to downplay the whole Brandon Routh thing. I was just joking. But we do talk about superhero movie news on this channel. We do talk about TV shows when we can. But I will leave that for another day. We're going to talk about Spider-Man being back in the MCU and what was announced this morning. So with that being said, let's get right into the first topic today, guys. And this is... my thoughts on this might be a little more controversial at the end of the segment. You'll see why. But first, for those of you that are not familiar with the controversy, maybe you didn't see Darren's video yesterday. He just talked about the whole, like, how the media has been responding to this film, how society has been responding to this film. I'm looking at an article from Rolling Stone that just came out a couple hours ago, and it has some spoilers for the movie in here, so I don't want to do that. But I highly suggest you watch Darren's video yesterday to get his thoughts on it, and he kind of goes into detail about other things that are going on with this movie. But in essence, a lot of people are claiming that this film is romanticizing incel culture, or, again, I'm trying to stay away from spoilers. I'll read a little portion of it from down in the article. It says, "It's worth noting that few of the reviews criticizing Joker on these grounds have explicitly suggested that the movie will incite violence, just that it is overly sympathetic to those who commit violent acts as a way to regain some semblance of power from a society that they believe has stripped them of it." And again, this is not something that everyone believes, but there are some prominent critics out there who have gone out to say this, and as Darren pointed out yesterday, there are a ton of movies out there, and he talked about John Wick, but there are other TV shows like The Punisher that have come out, and they've had so much violence, visceral violence in them, and they have not been criticized nearly to the extent that this movie Joker is being criticized, to the point where Warner Brothers, I don't think they're even doing test screenings for the Joker movie. And to me, all of this seems really, really insane. Now, to be fair, I have to be fair, I have not seen the movie yet, so I can't give you my perspective from the point of those critics. But I do think those critics are really, really stretching in terms of blaming this movie for some sort of cause and in a cause and effect way. This movie comes out, it will incite violence. That doesn't go, for me at least, that doesn't go nearly to the heart of the issue of violence here in America. Now, a lot of people will have you guys believe, and actually this is true, a lot of people are dealing with mental illness in our society. Mental illness is definitely a thing that needs to be addressed in our society to a greater extent. But not only mental illness, and again, this is probably going to be a little bit more controversial part. It just gets down to the fact that there are people in our society who have guns and who shouldn't have them. And again, the regulations in our country versus other countries are incredibly lax. Now, again, I'm just going to go through some statistics here that some people might be triggered by this, but I just want to give you guys something. So take a look at this chart, how the U.S. compares with the lowest rates of violent gun deaths worldwide. And you can see the United States versus some of these countries. Now, again, to be fair, there are other countries that have more gun deaths than us as well. But if you look at these places right here, it's and this is coming from an NPR.org, but there are plenty of other sources that can show you that these countries over here are doing things a little bit different. These countries all have guns. They have video games, but in some regards, the way they attack the issue is a lot more different. Japan, for example, they have a lot more regulations in terms of who can get guns and how they can maintain their possession of those guns. Again, I'm not going to go into this a lot more. This is definitely a huge political issue, and I don't mean to bring politics into this, but I think people who are talking about this movie and how this movie is going to incite violence. I don't buy that at all. The reason I don't buy that is because there are all these other countries that are subjected to movies just like this, violent movies, visceral violent movies, but that they don't have nearly the amount of type of crimes or gun violence that we have. And so to say that Warner Brothers or WB or Todd Phillips are romanticizing this, this kind of mentally ill person and violence, I think is nonsense. Again, Todd Phillips has gone on record about what he believes and what he wanted to do with this movie, and I think his intentions were just to make a great movie that made a statement, and it's by no means trying to promote or incite violence. That is kind of ridiculous in my mind. And again, I went into that whole gun situation because this type of stuff rarely happens in other countries because a lot of the people who shouldn't have guns don't have them in those countries. So again, it's a huge issue, and again, I've seen people in the comments get political. I try not to get political too much on here. So what I'll do to end this kind of conversation is I wanted to read a comment. It kind of clarifies on what Darren had to say about the issue. So I'm going to go ahead and read a comment from one of our commenters. It says, there's no way I can read this. It says, Noonjin77, the world is alive. And then he goes, hey bro, thanks for all the great insight and content. Appreciate you and Rob. I just wanted to clarify some things with the Aurora shooting incident in relation to the Joker. The shooter never dressed up as Joker or nor even resembled the Joker. He wore tactical gear and had red colored hair. He also never addressed himself as the Joker or even gave off the impression that he was the Joker. The movie audience that he targeted was watching The Dark Knight Rises, which we know doesn't even have the Joker in it. The mainstream media created a false narrative from all of this, and this is why you see all this negative reviews coming surrounding the Joker movie. This is the most certainly agenda-driven, and people are just trying to cash in on a horrible tragedy, and the wonderful backstabbing media is putting their self-righteous spin on it to create feelings of unwarranted guilt and sympathy. My heart and prayers go out to the victims, but it's not right to use this disturbing, horrible tragedy to verbally attack the Joker director, their actors, or the staff, or WB to manipulate them to donate money. This is pretty shallow. People need to take responsibility for their own actions and stop playing the blame game. Regardless of all this negative drama, I'm sure this Joker movie will be amazing and people will appreciate it for what it is, art. Godspeed. Hashtag release the Snyder Cut. Hashtag Henry's our Superman. Hey man, I love this I absolutely love this comment. Let me just love this comment right now. And again, we read all your guys' comments, but I just really thought this one stood out. One, because it kind of clarified some of the things about the Aurora shooting that Darren talked about yesterday, and it just highlighted the fact that yes, this whole media controversy is a big part of the problem. They're all running with this narrative, and again, these narratives occur on both the right side and the left side of the media, so it's not just one side or the other. But in this regard, Todd Phillips, he goes on in the article, he talks about how he blames the far left media in terms of what is going on with the sabotaging of what it feels like, the sabotaging of this movie. And again, this comes from a guy who is a Bernie Sanders supporter. I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter. So, but I do kind of agree with him in that regard. I guess you can say that this I guess the far left media, or the media, I guess a lot of these people are based out of LA. They are really they're really spinning this into like a bigger thing than it actually should be, I think. And again, my sympathies go out to all the Aurora victims and all victims of gun violence. We've had so much this year already. And and so to end my thoughts, I just wanted to talk about what I think about Darren's or what my answer is to Darren's question yesterday. He asked, hey, how are you guys walking into this movie? Are you guys a little bit more afraid? Are you guys a little bit more suspect of going into the movie that first night and watching this movie due to all the controversy surrounding it? And then there has been allegations from the Army even that they've gotten people with potentially credible sources that people were planning some sort of attack. But for me, I'm not really. It was at the back of my mind. I didn't even think about it until this narrative has been, this narrative has been constructed by the media. So I really wasn't thinking about that, again. And I realized that this can happen anywhere. It could happen in a movie theater. It can happen in a concert, just like it did in Vegas. It could happen at a Walmart, a grocery store. So this gun stuff is just scary in America as a whole, not just for movies. So am I walking in there a little bit more worried than usual? No. But am I worried about gun violence in general? Yes. So yeah, I guess I don't know if that answers the question. It is kind of a crazy topic to talk about here in America because it has affected so many people. Yeah, I don't want to get into any personal things, but yeah, I do know people that have been affected in that regard. So yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts on that. Again, let's not attack each other, attack each other. Let's have a conversation about it down below. So let me know what your guys' thoughts on this whole controversy is, if you haven't already weighed your thoughts in, and I do read all your guys' responses. So appreciate you guys for that. Now let's go on to more of a positive topic. That Spider-Man is back in the MCU. So I'm not going to go ahead and read you all of the articles in regards to this, but I want to quickly talk about this since I know there are some MCU fans in here. I know we're primarily a channel that covers DC topics, but we do, Darren and I do enjoy the MCU and what it brings to the table and for comic book movie fans and comic book fans. Kevin Feige, Sony, and Alan Horn, and other big wigs have met up and have essentially renegotiated to include Spider-Man in another movie and another appearance down the road in another Marvel movie. Looks like Disney's going to get 25% of the profits versus the 5% they normally got. But they're also going to be paying some production costs as well. I'm not going to get into the details about that. I am just more so going to talk about what I think about this. So am I happy about it? Yeah, sure, I'm happy. I do enjoy the Spider-Man movies for what they are. They're not my favorite superhero movies. They're not movies that I go and rewatch all the time, especially this last one. I did enjoy it, but I don't know if I think I enjoyed Homecoming a lot more. And Spider-Man 2 is still my favorite Spider-Man movie, and then Into the Spider-Verse. Those are kind of actually pretty close. But yeah, I am happy because I do love the continuity that Marvel has created, and I think they've done something really special. Whether or not you like all the movies, I don't like all the movies, but I do enjoy them to some level, and I'm glad Spider-Man can jump back into the mix, and he can continue on the legacy of the MCU, especially from where it has left off at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. So in that regard, I am happy. Am I a fan of how they treated the character Spider-Man, how it seems like he's Iron Man Jr. all the time? Not really, but again, I know they have that camaraderie in the comics, but just the way it's done, I'm okay with it. I am happy that they're going to move on. It looks like John Watts is in talks to direct the Spider-Man in Far From Home sequel, the Spider-Man 3, I guess you can say. And John Watts is going to be the John Watts trilogy. I am a fan of it. I enjoy it. They're not my favorite movies, but I do think, I know we got a lot of people on this channel that completely hated the movie. We got some that like it, but a lot of the people on this channel don't like what kind of Spider-Man we're being portrayed. But I am happy. I am happy with it. And I'm excited to see where it might go in the future, especially with the fact that this deal was renegotiated. And when Kevin Feige put out his quote, he talked about how Spider-Man was the only character that can cross cinematic universes. So I'm actually wondering, are we going to see Spider-Man still in the Sonyverse with, against Venom and against the Sinister Six in the Sonyverse, or whether it's in the Marvelverse? But I'm thinking we're going to see him in both universes, and somehow they're going to make this tie-in work. I'm really excited about that, and I think it's something new that we haven't gotten. I enjoyed Venom enough. Wasn't my favorite comic book movie either, but I did enjoy it, and I'm excited where Andy Serkis might take it, because I love Andy Serkis. I think he's a huge talent. And I'm excited to see him take on this big movie as a director. So it's based on big news, but again, if you guys have been watching the channel, I already told you guys I think this was gonna all work out at the end anyways, if you guys look back in like a couple months ago. So I thought it would work out, and it did work out, at least for now. So who knows where it's gonna go in the future? Let me know in the comments down below. Are you guys excited that Spider-Man is back in the MCU, or were you hoping that Sony was going to take it and take back the character and do their own thing with it. Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate you guys. If you can, leave a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell to be notified for all our future videos. Thank you guys. Have a good weekend. Peace.